Very happy to be here with you, hosting this panel named Applied Semiotics in the Digital Age. I'm also a little nervous since I'm also a presenter. So what do you feel like we should do? Wait a little more for the others, or start with the first presentation? Iulia, Maria, and Carmen are here, I guess, for the first presentation.
Yeah, we are here.
You're ready?
Kinda.
Well, then I suggest we start. And anyway, we have 15 minutes for each presentation and 5 minutes for questions. And if someone enters later, we can see if there were things to be clarified in the question period at the end of your presentation. So you have the floor.
Great, thank you so much. Hello everyone, I'm Maria, so nice to meet you. And together with my colleague Iulia, we will present you our research. Let me just share my screen, which is focused on how candidates' CV photographs influence the decision of HR specialists. Is it okay, my screen? I think it's a delay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great.
We see it, yeah.
So nowadays there's a growing interest in regarding the way technology influenced the HR area, mainly the recruitment and selection processes. Also, there is an interest in regarding the influence of candidates' social network profiles and photos on the perception of the recruiters and the interview callbacks. This is because the initial impression about a person formed after seeing his or her photo can influence later judgments and form opinions. And now my colleague Iulia will present you the literature review part.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Moving on to the literature section, we firstly focused on the impression management theory, which was originally developed by Kaufman. And according to this theory, each social actor shapes their behavior in order to maintain a positive image in front of others. So in social contexts, actors choose carefully what information to present in front of others in order to create or maintain a positive image, an ideal image. And impression management has gained a lot of popularity recently because with the emergence of social networking sites and with the emergence of professional social networking sites, impression management theory has taken a new role. One of the main terms used in impression management theory is identity claim, which refers to the information that reflects how individuals would like to be perceived by others. Moving on to the next slide, we know that each social networking site has its own particular traits. For example, LinkedIn is usually seen as a more professional platform, while Facebook or Instagram are seen as more relaxed. But we can find common traits between all these social platforms. And that common trait refers to the fact that we can categorize information into explicit and implicit. Explicit information usually refers to skills or certifications that are included in your online profile, while implicit information usually correlates with the user's e-visibility regarding their presence on the online platforms. Next, we are going to talk about professional photos, which are usually included in resumes and more recently in professional social networking sites such as LinkedIn. Me and Maria observed that there is a gap in the academic literature when it comes to the way an optimal or an ideal professional photo should look, but there are a lot of non-academic magazines which seem to cover this aspect at length. Therefore, we noticed in non-academic magazines a few key suggestions, so etiquette rules as they call them, when it comes to the way an optimal photo should look. Therefore, if you want to include a professional photo, you should have your hairstyle neatly groomed. The photo should be a portrait type of photo, avoid having selfies. You should make eye contact. And when it comes to the outfit, it should be a smart one, or if you're applying for a senior position, you should wear a suit. Also, the photo should include neutral colors and a neutral background. The non-academic magazines also cover aspects that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't include selfies or group photos. You should avoid using pictures that were taken on holidays or provocative pictures. And you should definitely avoid wearing eccentric jewelry or accessories such as hats or sunglasses. When it comes to the importance of such professional photos, previous research has stated that photos are adapted to online contexts. For example, you wouldn't use on Tinder, which is on the dating app, the same photo that you use on your resume or on Facebook. And previous articles have also stated that in everyday human interactions, there seems to be a tendency to judge an individual's personality based on his or her physical characteristics or facial features. But in order to make judgments, all the evaluators, in our case, the recruiters, need to have shared beliefs regarding the meaning of these facial cues in the photos. Next, Maria will tell you about our objectives.
So we have set 4 objectives. The first one, we thought about what cues do recruiters and candidates pay attention to in a resume photo. Secondly, to what extent do recruiters and candidates have shared beliefs regarding the meaning of these resume photo cues? Thirdly, to what extent does the resume photo influence the perception of a recruiter? And lastly, what impression management techniques do the candidates use? And now regarding methodology.
Okay, so we conducted 20 semi-structured interviews. So we have qualitative research in our study. We interviewed 10 HR specialists and 10 actual or past job seekers, or as we call them, candidates. And an average interview took about 30 minutes. You will see in our presentation, you will see that we refer to HR specialists as HR1, HR2, or to job seekers as C1, C2 in order to maintain their anonymity. Maria?
And now our results part. Regarding our first objective, our research confirms what non-academic articles suggest. Mainly, the outfit that you wear in a resume photo and your background are some of the most important elements for both recruiters and candidates. And for example, one candidate told us clothes are very important, don't wear a cleavage or something like that. Moreover, although previous research has emphasized the importance of facial cues, our participants weren't interested in that kind of elements, and they were interested in photo cues like the outfit, the aspect, and what's in the background. Moving on to our second objective, when describing how a CV photo should look like, both recruiters and candidates referred to them as kind of the same vocabulary, professionalism and sobriety. Also, they have a clear image of how the photo should not look like, but they do not agree on how it should look like. For example, they do not agree if it should be a selfie or a professional photo taken in a studio by a professional photographer. And for example, one HR specialist told us, even if you have a selfie picture, I said that you're going through a phase and I'll still call you. And one candidate told us that I do not agree with selfie photos, but they agree on the fact that you should not have like a weird picture in your resume, like sitting with a glass of wine or beer or at the seaside in a swimsuit. Also, the candidates consider that the picture could lead to biased outcomes and they could be judged. One candidate saying that it's a subjective filter that you submit to once you upload the picture in your resume. And the recruiters are aware of this fact that they tend to be biased towards certain pictures. And one recruiter told us that if she sees that she tends to be biased, she tends to take a step back and refocus. Regarding our third objective, although I previously said that they kind of admit that they tend to be biased, there's a reluctance in admitting when it comes to the influence of the photos they have on them. Also, the answers imply that the recruiters tend to make judgments and form opinions about a candidate based on his or her photos. For example, we have a quote from an HR specialist: blue colors, they tend to post all sorts of funny photos, and yes, a lot of them made us not choose those people. Also, even though they kind of recommend that you should include a photo in your resume, They believe that it's better if you don't have a professional one to just not upload any picture in your resume. And they told us that having no pictures shouldn't influence the selection process. Because, and I quote, the content matters much more than whether or not he has a picture in his CV. And lastly, our fourth objective regarding what impression management techniques do candidates engage in, we found that there is the content of their post depending on which platform they post on. For example, LinkedIn is the professional one. Facebook is kind of in between because they have their friends over there, the childhood friends or high school friends, but they also have teachers as friends. And on Instagram, they feel most relaxed and at ease. And also, we found it funny that similar to the option to not upload a picture in their resume, one candidate told us that they don't post on social media anymore in order not to be judged. Also, certain topics like politics or religion are to be avoided in the eyes of the candidates. And they do not post about them on social media because they tend that it should look bad on them. Also, they tend to want to be perceived as a professional candidate, but only one candidate drew attention to the importance of being genuine. And I quote, "I want them to see who I really am, and I don't want to hide or create a false image to please someone." And now moving on to conclusions, Iulia?
Okay, so we are reaching the final part of our presentation, and we want to emphasize the idea that although recruiters tend to see themselves as unbiased while viewing a resume, the process is usually a subjective one, and they are influenced by numerous aspects, including the photo that you use. Next, both recruiters and candidates have kind of a clear picture when it comes about the do's and don'ts of what a resume photo should look like. But as Maria stated earlier, there are some aspects that are still debatable. For example, the photo type. Use a selfie type or a professional one, or you can just use a normal picture. Also, the recruiters tend to have biased thoughts and opinions about the pictures they encounter in their resumes, but the extent to which these opinions influence their decisions is still pretty unclear. Next, we also analyzed the impression management techniques that were used by the respondents, and we noticed that candidates carefully choose what information they display online. And some of the impression management techniques that were implied by the respondents include choosing not to publish certain posts that are seen as unsuitable in front of a potential recruiter, avoiding sensitive subjects that may be controversial, such as religion or politics, hiding previous posts that may not represent them as they are right now in the present, or deleting posts that also seem unsuitable for them. Moving on, we noticed that there are differences when it comes to the contents posted on different social networks. And as Maria said earlier, LinkedIn is seen as a more professional type of platform, while Instagram tends to be more personal and social. Facebook is kind of in the middle. It's also a social platform, but also a professional one. Facebook has become a professional platform if we think about the fact that most of our recruiters said that they go on Facebook to find more information about their candidates, and that Facebook has recently added a section regarding available jobs. I don't know if you have seen it, but it definitely appears on my newsfeed. Moving on, we think that future research should explore the extent to which Facebook has become both a professional and a social platform in Romania. And an aspect that we also included in our interviews is the one regarding video resumes or video CVs. And we think that future research should also explore this aspect, how the focus in Romania will change from regular resumes to video ones, where you can have access to more cues such as gestures on facial features or something like that. And in the end, we also encountered some limits to our study. Me and Maria are both unexperienced interviews, so this might have been one of the limits in our study. Most of our candidates have a background in communication and or HR, so they might have some previous knowledge when it comes to how you should construct your CV. And because of the pandemic, we had to take interviews online, and we missed some bad language cues when talking to the respondents. Also, we had the difficulty to make the respondents answer some of our questions, as they were a bit reluctant to speak the truth. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice day.
Thank you very much. It was very on point, very on time. We still have some time for questions. If anyone wants to share their view or on the topic, or simply ask anything, just feel free to join the conversation. Raquel.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. I'd like to ask you a simple question. The survey was conducted with recruiters from which areas? Because I imagine that candidates from some areas like arts or design may have some different characteristics from the conservative areas. So I was wondering about that.
So the recruiters that were included in our study were from different areas. So we had recruiters that worked in the aviation sector, but we also had people that work in banks, in the economic sector or something like that. So it was kind of a diversity, and we think that in the future this thing should be much more controlled, you know, like they should focus on a certain aspects, because we have also seen during our interviews that there is difference when it comes to recruiters that recruit blue collar and the ones that recruit white collar. So there might be some differences there, and I think it would be interesting to analyze and make a comparison between these two categories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to clarify anything? Well, if not, we can move on to the next presentation, and if we have time at the end, we can have a sum up with open floor questions for everyone. Thank you very much again. I will share my screen now. We shared the methodology, qualitative interviews, and also I could think of another link between our presentations in terms of impression management. Is something we can link a debate further if you want. So let me just share. What? Hello, sorry. I think I have a little technical issue here. I guess you do not see my screen, right?
No, we can't.
Just a moment,
You're on mute.
I'm sorry, until I check my technical issues, can the next presenter take the floor so we don't waste any time? If it's here, do you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Orlando Martinez and Silvia Duarte or Vinicius Romanini can help me out and take the floor until I see what I can do with my share screening options. If they are not ready, then I will just ask you to wait for a few more minutes while I will try to reboot here the system, okay? And I'm so sorry for the issues.
So is something that doesn't work here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. Alina is trying to share her screen, but she has some technical issues.
But I think it's a hard problem. Here I don't see any internet problem. I mean by my computer.
Yeah, I think it's something from her laptop.
Yes, yeah, if she can't present, we can pass and go to another presenter, and then we can return to her. Maybe so
Yeah,
we can save the time.
Asked earlier, maybe now Orlando or Silvia or Vinicius are ready and they can present their researches.
Please. And then we can to turn back.
Hi. Could you give us 5 minutes, please, to prepare the research?
I am back. Hello.
Hello, Alina.
Hello. I'm sorry. I am back. I needed to restart everything,
okay.
but I believe now we can start. But if someone else wants to take the floor and I can be the last one since I had these technical issues, it's fine by me. So let me know what I missed when I was away and if you decided to move on in a different way. So should I continue or someone else already started presenting?
No, Silvia said that she could present in like 5 minutes.
Okay, then.
Or so.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I think now we can proceed, and please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry again, and I will try to catch up for the lost time in speeding up my presentation. So I want to talk about the fake popularity contest on social media that every mother wants to win. Let's check this confession. Being a mother made me a greater human being. There is literally nothing that can measure up to this experience. It is an absolute blessing, yet it sometimes surely is also the absolute nerve-wracking experience. This could be an entry journal for every mother out there. Actually, for fathers also, if we want to be inclusive, and let's just say for all parents. This could very much be my entry journal as well, since I have a 3-year-old at home. But the fact is that it rarely is a journal entry that sees the light of online exposure on social platforms. Although there is a growing trend towards authenticity in social media, it still is at its beginning phase. And one of the hypotheses of my study is that there is a growing social pressure on moms in particular, and parents in general, to perform the task at hand properly. Social media plays a great deal of role in amplifying this social pressure. And the question is, what makes you a good mother or parent? What defines the journey of identity reshaping after becoming a parent? What stimuli trigger important changes that come with that status? What channels or platforms encourage self-expression? And what is the role played by social media in this process? It is, of course, a broad issue, and as much as I would like to say that I found the answer through my research, I did not. What I did find, though, is a relation between some online behaviors of new mothers and their perception on how they handle motherhood. Through in-depth interviews, the semi-structured interviews conducted with about 20 moms, I found some captivating stories about their journey as mothers and the way these experiences reshaped their identity and how this reflected online on their social platforms. So let's have an overview on the context, considering the role of social platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, and their role in mirroring ourselves. We must acknowledge the idealized version of motherhood reflected on Instagram, with perfect photos depicting some perfect lives, while on Facebook, we have the echo chambers, the polarization, the online bullies, and all of that exert a great deal of pressure, again, on new mothers, amplifying their anxiety of not doing the job right. This is a very symbolic photo of a global mom influencer, Chiara Ferragni from Italy, followed by 23.6 million people. She posts about fashion. She was a model, but now, after being a mother of 2, she also posts about her journey as mother. Of course, the way she presents reality does influence our perception of a perfect reality she lives. She always posts the perfect picture portraying motherhood as a blissfulness experience. But of course, there is this other side of their role as influencers, the responsibility they have towards their online communities, and how they shape the views of other mothers following them. About half of the mothers I interviewed are also online influencers in Romania, gathering thousands of online followers, which constantly puts them under public scrutiny, and of course validates their ego, also burdens them with the responsibility they have towards their fans, as I said before, and in this context, we need to ask ourselves and them, how does such popularity influence their journey? Are they good enough gatekeepers for disinformation? Is their judgment a good enough filter to expose biases and so on? On the other side of social media, what about online communities focused on supporting young mothers? In my research, I focused on both the influence of influencers that are mothers and the online communities, the Facebook groups designed for new mothers and aiming at supporting them in their new journey. This is also a recent article on Slate magazine with a confession of a mother saying that she's helplessly addicted to parenting groups. As you can see from this longer quote, what I would like to emphasize is her confession of the idea that she feels less alone when she goes on those groups and reads the experiences of other mothers, and feels forewarned about things that might happen to her in the future stages of development of her child. I relate very much with this approach she has. The parenting related Facebook posts and comments are sociological snack food for someone interested in such themes. And she also describes and points out two mommy war issues, the two most polarized conversations online, the debate between breastfeeding and formula feeding and sleep training and not using sleep training techniques. Anyway, going back to the Romanian landscape, this is a group of mothers with about 3,000 members, Zen Mommy Village, from which I recruited the mothers that took part in my research through interviews. They also have a short description in English, so you can see how they describe themselves. We are a cozy group of Zen mommies. Take a deep breath because you are not alone in your everyday struggle. The direction of the group when it first started was a very simple one: useful tools, articles, and projects to share and build. Empathic and open-minded attitude and a general support vibe. This is my announcement and the responses that followed joining the research. This is a bigger and more notorious group of mothers and fathers. La primul bebe, it's the first baby, it would be the translation. It has 40,000 members and is often brought up in the interviews I conducted, so I felt it was relevant to show you there is also a larger group, often where mothers seek support. Last but not least, in the introductory part of this presentation, I relied a lot on research of our fellow colleagues at the college in Bucharest. They made an ethnographic study of online community for mothers. It was very enlightening in pointing out some relevant aspects that I took into account when I made my research. Of course, new mothers experience social isolation. Such groups help them feel like they have a bond with someone that goes through the same experience. Such groups offer various forms of social support. They are classified in this research in emotional, affirmational, instrumental, and informational. And also, last but not least, is this topic that is very present in their research as well as in my findings, that there is a growing need to stop idealizing maternity online and not only. So going back to questions for the research, can the moderators on these groups ensure they are biases free? Or on the contrary, their actions tend to be censoring any opposite views from the majority, thus creating actually echo chambers? Which are the topics that tend to create frictions? Which are the ones that create tensions? And which are the ones that even more generate polarizing debates that create a situation from which it seems to be no turning back? Let me just point out some theoretical frames for the study. Of course, social platforms are enriched with a lot of benefits we all know and experience as users, but they also generate some addictiveness. They are a place where we can become victims of confirmation bias. So we validate our egos through vanity metrics, likes and comments. And it's a place where we tend to get very territorial with the beliefs we have. Echo chambers are something that are happening on a daily basis, and we cannot be immune to them. They are rooted in cognitive biases explained by human psychology, and they are enhanced by online behavior particularities such as what we follow, what we like, what we dislike, who we unfriend, and so on. And algorithms pick on these digital fingerprint that we leave through every action that we do, and they just create an even more filtered reality. About opinion leaders, of course, they are curators of information, and they have an important role in shaping public opinions on some aspects. And on archetypes, just to clarify, because it's a lot of literature on the topic, starting from classical one to more modern and simplified definitions, but let's say we can translate them as patterns that depict into meaningful compasses showing the reason why behind human behavior. They are repetitive patterns, repetitive characteristics, filters through which we see the reality, and they are linked to our own way of being. Research directions and questions. Social pressure on being a good mother. What does it mean to be a good mother? What role plays the society in shaping this concept, and how it is influenced by social media activity for active users on Facebook groups designed to support new mothers? What's the value added for online users on such groups? How do group members on Facebook support groups for mothers value the time spent interacting with other mothers? And what are the triggers that make them continue to be part of those online communities or not, as we will see in the research findings? And value added for online influencers. How do they value their time spent as online content creators, and what determines them to continue doing so and engaging with their followers? A sum up of the findings. Yes, we discovered that Facebook groups become a source of spreading fake or at least insufficiently tested information and at times online aggression. By using the lens of archetypes, in that sense of patterns of behavior that reveal core beliefs to one's identity, this study presents opposite types of parenting strategies: the caregiver, the rebel, the every woman, the hero, and so on. And yes, through this exploratory qualitative research, analyzing these testimonials, it became common ground and obvious that there is an amplifying role of social media on the perceived social pressure to be a good mother. Some of the quotes: how does the journey of a new mother start in the digital world of today? I felt overwhelmed. The fear of doing something wrong was very present. I felt sorry to realize that the world was going forward without me, and I felt stuck. I felt judged. I felt a huge fear of failure. I felt inadequate. It takes a village to raise a child. It's an African proverb, and it was something that we discovered vividly in this research, the need for support. One of the recurrent themes in the interviews conducted with mothers reaching out to online support groups for parents was their need to feel the support of the other mothers going through the same challenges. And also, another frequent topic encountered was this hard lesson of finding the courage to reach for help, informational or emotional, and after asking for it, accepting it wholeheartedly. The support Facebook parenting groups offer to their users authenticity and real experiences they can easily relate to, informational support. Some of the respondents said it's a collection of curated information they find there or a useful checklist. The overwhelming majority of interviewed mothers expressed trust in the information found on Facebook parenting groups on various topics, from medical advice regarding hospital hours for emergency rooms to doctor recommendations, ideas for activities and playgrounds, baby food recipes, advices on how to address relational problems. Also, emotional support was considered important, although less significant in terms of frequency of being mentioned. And also the feeling of being useful and helping others to feel less alone while going through same hardships. The tensions on Facebook parenting groups, most frequently aggressive debates sparkle on topics such as natural birth or C-section birth, breastfeeding or formula feeding, when on how to stop breastfeeding, sleep training, attachment parenting, pros and cons, and so on. The Facebook groups that they decided to leave and felt uncomfortable, and why, some of the quotes: they were toxic, I felt judged by other mothers, the debate was emotionally draining, I felt that they offered too much medical advice, like we were asking Dr. Google, the moderators did not regulate this enough, I did not feel the support, I felt alone, I felt judged, I felt mom shaming, and so on. The categories of influencers mothers follow are either the experts on certain niche fields, like sleep training consultants, lactation consultants, baby food consultants, or famous actresses or models that are now mothers, or authentic voices of mothers that fight the fake and the idealized version of motherhood, because users crave for information and authenticity. This is an example of the polarized spectrum from the idealized to the authentic presentation of motherhood, and also the parallel with the archetypes from the hero to the every woman. How influencers that are also mothers feel? Well, they do feel a great deal of responsibility to inspire and inform their followers. They feel sometimes judged and uncomfortable, and they feel validated indeed through the feedback they receive. I will not insist on this. We can go back because I have to finish soon. Conclusions. There is definitely a popularity contest on social media, even if at times remains more subtle. Online platforms facilitate the sense of belonging for new mothers. The way information is being streamed and the influence of algorithms creates this challenging task even more challenging than before. And yes, the lens of archetypes can help in identifying coping mechanisms for new mothers. And yes, a silent war is being led, however, by different views upon motherhood. And further research on the topic can surely discover more nuances, as I feel I'm only at the tip of the iceberg here with my findings. Sorry for the technical issues and for taking a lot more with the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here. If not, we can move on to the next presentation. Okay, so let's move to the next presenter, Orlando Pardo Martinez and Silvia Iuliana Villarreal Duarte. Did I pronounce correctly?
Hi.
Hi.
One moment, please.
Sure.
Good morning. Good morning. Today I will talk about the semiotic analysis of case law and constitutional debate in Colombia regarding fake news. For that, I will have an interpreter to make the conference more dynamic. La primera cosa que me gustaría señalar sobre este objeto de investigación es su importancia.
The first element I'd like to point out about this research topic is its importance.
Para eso nos planteamos la pregunta de nuestro tiempo y las circunstancias que lo configuran. ¿Es nuestro tiempo el tiempo de las fake news?
For this, we talked about the characteristics of our time, and we asked the following question: is our time one of fake news?
Cuando entendemos el problema de las fake news en contexto, tenemos dos sujetos. Un sujeto que puede crear la información falsa y otros sujetos que son reproductores de esta información.
When we speak about fake news, there's two subjects to take into account: the ones that create the fake news story and the ones who reproduce the fake news story.
El problema radica en que, siendo conscientes los sistemas jurídicos de esta problemática, poco o nada pueden hacer para regularla.
Despite our legal systems knowing about this issue, they can do little to regulate it.
Sin embargo, la Corte Constitucional de Colombia, que es una de las altas cortes,
Despite that, the Colombian Constitutional Court, one of our higher courts in the land,
se ha planteado este tema real como parte de su jurisprudencia.
has established legal precedent regarding fake news.
A partir de preguntas como ¿quién emite la información sobre quién la emite? ¿Dónde? ¿Cuándo? ¿Y cuál es el alcance de esta información?
This topic has been approached by the Constitutional Court in Colombia by asking who is emitting the fake news, who receives it, what's its content, and what reach does the fake news story have.
Cuando la Corte entra a regular la temática y a plantear resolución a estas preguntas,
when the Constitutional Court establishes the thing to approach and starts asking these questions,
aborda conceptos como que se encuentran en oposición como la falsedad, la corrección, la verdad, la falsedad, la corrección, la incorrección, lo bueno, lo malo, lo bello y lo feo.
It approaches concepts that are diametrically opposite, such as truth and falsehood, correction and incorrection, good and evil, beauty and ugliness of the speech that are viewed through a network of interconnections.
Valores que se encuentran en juego en la configuración de una realidad.
Values that are part of the analysis of a reality.
Igualmente, en su jurisprudencia, la Corte señala que este criterio de libertad de expresión fomenta el criterio propio en la construcción política individual y social.
The court establishes that the criteria of freedom of speech allows us to construct ourselves individually and on a socio-political level.
De allí surge un concepto fundamental en el derecho y en torno a esta temática que es la autorregulación.
From there, a concept is born which is fundamental for this topic: self-regulation.
Básicamente se trata que cuando nosotros accedemos a cualquier plataforma virtual, aceptamos unas reglas de regulación que plantea esta plataforma.
When we enter social media platform, we as individuals accept the rules that are established by said platform.
Así se crea una especie de acuerdo o contrato.
Therefore, there is a contract that has been formed due to that agreement.
Y ante alguna dificultad que se presente en estos medios, lo correcto y la primera instancia será mirar cuáles son las opciones de solución que nos ofrece esta plataforma.
And if any problem arises, what must first be done is to approach the mechanisms established by the agreement that we have made with the platform.
En cualquier caso, la Corte señala que las plataformas no pueden reemplazar a los jueces.
In any case, the Constitutional Court of Colombia has established that platforms cannot replace judicial bodies.
Porque la determinación de una noticia falsa necesita de criterios mucho más exhaustivos que involucran al ser humano.
Because the establishment of a news story as fake goes beyond the capability of a social platform and requires legal and contextual elements in order to judge it as so.
Y allí justamente radica esos procesos semióticos que nos convocan en este objeto de investigación.
And therein lie the semiotic elements that make us approach this research topic.
Dice Gaer, los humanos están atrapados en esas construcciones de sentido que ellos crean.
Gards states that a human being is trapped in networks of meaning that have been woven by itself.
La norma no se escapa de estas construcciones de sentido.
Normative elements are not, do not shy away from these constructions of meaning.
Por eso, para comprender las fake news, tenemos que remitirnos a la norma que regula la libertad de expresión en Colombia.
In order to comprehend fake news, we have to approach the legal regulation of freedom of speech in Colombia.
De ella se derivan al menos 4 sentidos.
There are at least 4 meanings or approaches regarding the regulation of freedom of speech in Colombia.
Un sentido general que se basa en esa naturaleza humana de comunicación que tenemos.
A generic meaning or a general meaning that establishes the communicative nature of humanity.
Un sentido estricto que se basa en esa autoexpresión propia de cada uno de nosotros de manera individual, que puede ser con el yo o con los otros.
A strict meaning that is an approach regarding self-expression, whether it is for oneself or for others.
De allí se derivan 2 aspectos, uno colectivo y uno individual. El colectivo se refiere a todo eso que causa impacto en otros y lo individual a aquello que causa impacto en mí.
From there on, there are 2 additional aspects that we need to take into account. A collective one that implies the impact of our communications on others, and an individual one that implies the impact on oneself.
Adicional a estos sentidos, hay que añadir que en Colombia está prohibida la censura previa de cualquier información que publiquen las personas.
It's important to note that in Colombia, previous censorship of any information is completely prohibited.
Para ello, entonces, vamos a responder algunas de las inquietudes, digamos, estructuralmente, que la Corte resuelve para abordar el tema de las fake news.
We'll approach some structural questions that the Colombian Constitutional Court has established to solve the issue or approach the issue of fake news.
Lo primero que quiero señalar es el rango de protección que tienen según la calidad de las personas que intervienen, sean por quienes dicen o de quienes dicen.
The first thing I'd like to point out is that there are differential states or statuses of protection depending on who says the news or who the news are about.
Hay un rango de protección donde las personas que son personajes públicos, servidores públicos o personas públicas, tienen menos rango de protección.
The rate of protection of public servants or public personalities, particularly of higher offices in government, is lower than that of everyone else.
Como pueden ver en la gráfica, hasta llegar al rango de mayor protección, que es el de una persona que históricamente pertenece a un grupo que ha sido discriminado. Pensemos en una persona que hace parte de una comunidad afrodescendiente o rom o LGTBI, por ejemplo, o se encuentra en un momento concreto en situación de vulnerabilidad.
As you can see on the following figure or graphic, there is a higher rate of protection when it comes to people who have historically been discriminated against or are in a situation of vulnerability, such as indigenous groups, Afro-Colombian groups, LGBTQ groups, and so on and so forth.
Creando así la Corte en su regulación diferentes arquetipos de protección.
Having created the Colombian Constitutional Court different archetypes of protection.
En el mismo sentido, hay unos rangos según la afectación.
There are also different rates of affectation.
Se dividen en tres, donde, dependiendo del objeto de afectación al otro en su derecho, se va a determinar una mayor o menor gravedad.
These rates are depending on the affectation that some people are subject of from the exercise of free speech by another person, depending on the level of gravity.
De allí, cuando se constituye una afectación, se generan jurídicamente la posibilidad de una indemnización moral o monetaria.
From the affectation or the damage, there is a possibility of a monetary or moral reparation.
Estas deben ser probadas y pasan por un juicio de debida diligencia por parte de quien publicó o compartió la noticia falsa.
All of this must be backed by proof, and there must be a judgment whether the person who wrote or shared the fake news actually accomplished due diligence in researching its veracity.
Otro de los elementos importantes y donde la semiótica contribuye especialmente al entendimiento de este fenómeno es la forma de expresión.
Another element that is relevant to this issue, and particularly to semiotics, is the form of expression that is also protected.
Ya que la semiótica resalta la importancia de las formas para el análisis y la interpretación de sus contenidos.
Semiotics studies, and very much so, the form of the expression as well as its content.
Allí importará según el medio, si el tipo de plataforma en concreto, si es una imagen, si es un texto, si es una canción. Según las formas de expresión, también van a seguir o darse diferentes cursos interpretativos.
The medium of speech or of expression also allows for different interpretations or interpretative courses of action, different mediums such as images, songs, written messages, and so on.
Aquí es importante entender que como es un caso, las fake news son algo tan dinámico, entre más dinamismo, menor posibilidad tiene la legislación, la ley, de configurar una norma taxativa.
Fake news are a very complex and evolving topic, and as such, as there is a more evolving scheme or dynamics of fake news, there is less of a possibility by legislative bodies to establish a restrictive statute regarding fake news.
Por eso es importante entender el rol de los jueces y su papel de interpretación normativo en estos asuntos.
That's why it's important to understand the role that judicial bodies play in the interpretation of normative elements in language.
Con eso cerraría mi intervención. Espero que si tienen alguna duda o inquietud me la puedan compartir.
I finished my intervention with these words. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, please present it forward to me.
Thank you very much. So anyone that wants to ask a question, feel free. We cannot hear you anymore, Sylvia. Just you're on mute now. If you just unmute your microphone.
Oui.
Yes.
You
were saying something and it was on mute.
That's fine. It was with me.
Ah, okay. I thought it was for everyone. So do we have any questions? If someone wants to add anything or ask for clarifications. If not, we can move to the final presentation, and I invite Vinicius Romanini. Did I say it right? Are you with us? On the post-reality in the age of big data. I think.
Muchas gracias por su tiempo y espero que se encuentren muy bien. Gracias por sus espacios también de interlocución. He escuchado atentamente todas sus conferencias.
Thank you very much for your time and for this space. I've listened very attentively to every conference, so thank you very much.
And thank you very much for your input. So, Vinicius Romanini, are you with us? As I see the list of participants, I believe he's not logged in. Maybe we can wait a little more and see if he can log in later on, because we still have some time in this panel. And meanwhile, if you want to address a topic for debate or a question for any of the presenters, we can have an open round of questions. So, no one?
Well, if nobody's gonna say anything, I just wanted to congratulate everyone. And Alina, I wanted to say that I found your presentation really interesting. And I don't have a question, but I'd rather have a comment. I usually look at these kinds of things on the social networks. And I also noticed on TikTok that there are certain videos posted there, videos posted by moms that do certain things or activities with their children. And I usually like to look at the comment section. And I can see there that all the comments are divided. So there are mothers that say, oh, you're such a bad mother for doing that or not doing that or something like that. And there are mothers that encourage the user that posted the video and say, well done, you're doing such a great job with your child or with your children. And I think that in the future, it would be really interesting to analyze and research this topic on other social platforms too. I know that you focused on Facebook, but I think it would be interesting to see if there are certain differences that are maybe different from platform to platform. Like maybe the communities on Facebook are certainly not, certainly don't have the same traits as the ones on Instagram or TikTok or maybe other platforms. That's all.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's a valid point. And yes, the main area I focused on was the Facebook platform, then the Instagram one, because influencers are more active there. And yes, influencers also use TikTok, and it's an angle to explore for further research. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that you also noticed this antagonization of opinions that it's unfortunately a very vivid reality we mothers live by offline and online. Thank you. I really don't know what to do regarding the last speaker. I don't know, is there anyone that knows him and can ask if he has trouble logging in, or if you don't know him, right? I suggest we wait a little more. Maybe he's going to come only when he was scheduled to present, which is in about 10 minutes. But meanwhile, if you want to explore some other directions and topics and have a little debate, I would be more than happy than to have a silent room.
So Alina, can I ask you something?
Of course, please. By all means.
About archetypes. You used Jung. Do you want to categorize some archetypes about being a good mother, how this occurs in different cultures, for example? Because I think maybe it's a little different from Brazil to Romania to Italy to an Asian country. Are you thinking about that, or you think it's globalized, this idea of being a good mother?
I'm sure there are some differences interculturally. There must be also some similarities, and I was focusing on the general issues that are the core idea of archetypes, that there are these patterns that unify us no matter the culture or context. But I would be interested to take further the research and maybe see also the differences between cultures and how they nuance these patterns from a country to another. It's an interesting point and a more ambitious research, but wow, maybe I will embark on that. How is it in your country? How do you see this landscape of online presence for new mothers? Do you have such supporting groups on Facebook, or how do new mothers interact online, and how do they reach out for support?
Yes, here in Brazil, we have a lot of groups. When I was a mother for the first time was 10 years ago, so it was not so huge, the social medias like nowadays. So I didn't use that, but I tried to ask my friends, the group that I know that was mothers, and how they can pass me their experiences. And nowadays it's totally different, of course. 10 days after, it's totally different. I think there are a lot of this pressure from social media, because we have pressure for all the areas, of course, how to be a good professional, like Maria and Iulia are talking about that, how to be a good mother, how to be a good designer. I'm a designer, so there are a lot of social media about that too. So I think it's a huge problem. We have, for one side, good consequence for mothers that try to have good experience and tips from other mothers. But I think it's a coin with two sides, and it's very difficult to deal with, I think, aggressive comments, because when we have an anonymous audience, we have this problem with aggressive comments. So that's a huge problem nowadays, I think, here in Brazil too.
Indeed, indeed. And as you pointed out, it's reflected in other areas too. It's just that I focused on this and the journey that mothers embark onto when they become mothers and feel like it's a lot of work to reshape their identity during this process. And of course, other fields in here are as well affected by this polarization that occurs online on social platforms. As you said, yes, professional, the way we present ourselves professionally, and as was presented in the first presentation, how we manage this image of ourselves when we want to sell our abilities and be hired on a certain position and so on. Yes, it's a very valid point you made, and thank you for unifying these perspectives. Maybe Iulia and Maria want to add something since you also mentioned them, if they are still with us.
Yes, we are. When you talked about the anonymity of social media, and also Iulia has mentioned TikTok. Several days ago, I watched the TikTok, and it was about a mean comment, which was written for a mother. And there is a special account on TikTok. I think it's a hacker or something. And even though you have like an anonymous username, I'm sorry, I'm watching that word, they can find you, and they will make a TikTok with your name, like your face, and they will send it to your school and your work, the place you work at. And I don't know if it's scary or not, but things have gone a little like too far. And I don't know how I should feel about that account, but it's doing a right thing, but I don't know if that's the way we should take.
So what you're saying is that it's like someone that exposes bullies, right?
Yes.
But you feel like it's a good thing on one hand because it amends behavior that is toxic, and on the other hand you feel like you're threatened in your own privacy a frame that you try to keep
somehow, because it's not an institution, like, I don't know, ruled by the state or by some laws. It's just a person who wants to like heal the world or something to make it a better place. But I don't know it. He has a mask like in V for Vendetta, and that's what reminds me of. And he really tries to like revenge those people. But I think that a state institution should also be engaged in that kind of situations, because this phenomenon is not like only on 2 or 3 accounts. Everyone receives like hate comments, especially influencers, and also on groups. There's a growing interest in, I don't know, spreading hate. That's what I think.
Indeed. And I think what you, let me see if I understood correctly, but what you're trying to say is that although it might be from good intentions, such a behavior is a little extreme, and it can be an open door to some more extreme behaviors online.
Yeah, because he tries to like stop bullying, but he becomes a bully.
The irony, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know if it's related to the subject that much, but I don't know, I just thought of that.
Thank you. I think it is, because it's a behavior that is ambivalent, as we are on social media, and complex, and at one point it can easily be out of hand and get out of control, and that's what scares us the most on social media, I believe. So I think it's a good food for thought how we regulate this kind of behavior in the future. Okay, so if you do not have any more questions or things to add, I suggest maybe we end the presentation earlier, the panel, and wait for the master lecture at 6 p.m. And have some free time to regroup and meet you all at 6 p.m. with the master lecture. If anyone else from the organizing team wants to tell me that we need to wait some more for the last speaker, just please do. If not, so now or never. Chrysanthos Vutunos, do you want to add something? It appears like that to me, or
hello from me. I entered the room quite late, but what I saw from the presenters was interesting. Maybe a question from one who can get to it and give me a reply. But what about cases that are addressed by the law, like the ones you mentioned? I think that this phenomenon with the harassment taking on, with bullying, like the statements you said before, it might work from another side around. If I got it well from the last question, in my mind it will be a problem maybe from the people who make the bully, and the law try to address the problem, and while they are arrested, let's say, and get them to justice. I'm not sure what happens from that stage on. I mean, there are people that might make bully. It depends also on age, who may become a bully. But there might be a problem with people that they are immature and make bully and get the trouble and having the issues with justice. What can you say about this? I hope you get quite well the question.
Wow, it's a heavy topic you addressed. It's, in my opinion, it's not enough regulated, this behavior on social platforms, and maybe Sylvia can add more, since her presentation was more regarding this constitutional law and the debate on laws regulating this area. What you're trying to ask is about the children that are using social platforms and can be exhibiting a behavior that is immature and have problems with the law. Is it right?
Yes. Like you say, or people of some age and mature people that they become immature because they have strong views on some subjects that offends some other groups of people. And I wanted to know if this matter is regulated, or could be regulated?
To my knowledge, is not yet very well regulated, apart from some code of conducts that platforms have. And they point out also the age of the participants, the users. So it's above 13 years old, I believe, on Instagram, and it's quite the same, I guess, for the others too. And also code of conduct in terms of ethical behavior. And Facebook groups, for example, also have a different set of conduct in what they admit and what they do not. For the groups regarding mothers, it surely is so. But even if there are this set of rules, people tend to behave in a badly manner and become bullies. I don't know exactly what triggers them to do so, and I'm not also sure what we can do to better regulate this, but for sure is something we should be thinking about and create some measures and social pressure towards this direction of regulating the social conduct on social platforms. But maybe someone else has another view on that topic, another take.
I think Gustave Le Bon said that when we are in a crowd, we tend to think like we are in a crowd. We are not individuals anymore. And I think that also happens on social media. And if we write, I don't know, a rude comment on someone's post, we do not tend to write it as individuals, rather as a whole group.
Yes, I think what you're saying is the dispersion of responsibility.
Yeah,
it was the term. Yes, it happens online indeed, and the anonymity or perceived anonymity of ourselves online gives us, in a way, more courage to just say things that offline would be considered inadequate or impolite or aggressive. Yes.
Sobre esto me gustaría comentarles algo.
Please, please.
About this, I'd like to talk a little bit regulations.
En Colombia, la regulación sobre las fake news alrededor de el ciberbullying, la Corte señala que el 30% de las personas en Colombia alguna vez en su vida han sufrido de ciberbullying. Es una estadística bastante alta.
The Colombian Constitutional Court has stated that around 30% of people have suffered from cyberbullying online in our country.
Y por eso se interesa en trabajar y nominar estos temas y, por ejemplo, en su regulación sobre el uso que tienen los niños en redes sociales, dice que están sujetos a esas normas de autorregulación que les mencionaba en la conferencia.
Regarding the usage of social media by children, the court, at least our court, has established that children are also subject to the self-regulatory contracts that social or codes of conduct that social media platforms have established.
Por eso, si un niño menor de 14 años se encuentra usando indebidamente una red social o es vulnerado en una red social, también hay una responsabilidad por parte de los padres.
That's why a minor, specifically someone below the age of 14, using social media that in the exercise of freedom of speech affect someone or is affected by someone could, imply responsibility on the behalf of the parents that have to respond monetarily or otherwise.
Y sobre el asunto de las expresiones contundentes que puedan incitar a la violencia, a la guerra, a la discriminación.
And regarding publications or posts that may incite to violence, hate, discrimination, or even genocide.
La Corte Constitucional señala que en Colombia está sujeta a los tratados internacionales. Entonces aquí estamos en la protección y la salvaguarda de los derechos humanos y es algo que todos los países hoy en día están procurando.
Our Colombian Constitutional Court has established concept that's the constitutionality block, which states that part of our regulations is also the international treaties and covenants regarding human rights, which implies that the application of law and regulations are directed towards keeping or safekeeping the dignity and human rights of those, well, in this case, online users, including children that are affected or have been affected by, freedom of expression in bad use.
Y en este caso lo que hacen jurídicamente es regular después de la publicación, porque no puede haber censura.
And since there is a prohibition of censorship in our country, what happens is that judicial bodies tend and have to regulate after in order to take down or modify any publication.
Y estas prácticas jurídicas se pueden contrastar también en países como Argentina, Inglaterra, Francia.
These legal practices have also been found in another countries such as Argentina, France, and England.
Digamos que es un fenómeno global.
It is a global phenomenon.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Crisantos, I hope we managed to answer at least partially your question.
Thank you very much for the, yes, I would like to thank for the specifications in regards what's happening in her country. It's enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for taking part in this panel. It was a pleasure to create such a vivid debate together, and looking forward to meeting you again at some other academic conferences, maybe even offline sometime soon after the pandemic is over. Thank you very, very much to every participant in this meeting.
Muchas gracias a ustedes por escucharme, especialmente desde Colombia, cuando estamos viviendo contextos bastante preocupantes en términos de noticias falsas justamente y también en relación a la protección de los derechos humanos. Estos espacios académicos son realmente importantes para nosotros.
Thank you very much. Specifically from Colombia, we're in fake news and the human rights situation right now is very difficult. So these academic spaces are very important for us.
Thank you very much. So I think we can end this on that note, and waiting 2 more minutes to log into the master lecture. Thank you everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
Bye.
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 Bye.